and my neighbor. I just want to talk about real quick. For those of you that are new, like Av Yahuwah really uses my me being a parent as a way to show me his perspective a lot of the times. Because, in the middle of me getting onto my son, then I hear him say, really? And it's like, oh, okay, now I understand. Now I get it. It's much like, kind of like when we're a kid, we don't understand our parents. We just think they're being mean and, what I'm saying, they're ruining our fun. And then we become parents and we're like, oh, okay, I got you. I understand now. But I said all that to say because there's something that a lot of us were taught not to do. And as adults, even in the called out assemblies, we still do it. And that's a failure to apologize to our children when it's necessary. And what do I mean? So I'm gonna give you the example that happened today. So I'm in the bedroom, my son was in the shower, and my dad was up in the front of the house. And there was a noise coming, sounded like it was something my son was doing in the shower. So I was like, you better not be in there, whatever it was he was doing. And come to find out it was my dad. So I apologized to my son for getting on to him when it wasn't him. I hadn't even come out the room yet to check to see if it was him. But I mean, like I said, it sounded like something that he normally does. But something so small seems so insignificant, yet it's very significant because it teaches your child that they have a voice and that they are a person. Yes, they are supposed to stay out of grown folks' business. However, that doesn't mean that they're not a human being that has emotions and feelings. As a matter of fact, majority of their character development is going to happen while they're a child. So the things that we put in them spiritually, ruachally, it's going to be the seeds that we start to see manifest in them as an adult. Not to say that they won't make some bad choices, but ultimately their foundation will be there, on top of you, pointing them to Av Yahuwah, introducing them to Yahushua HaMashiach, all that stuff. But you still on your part, because you got to think about it like this. The kingdom of darkness is going to do everything they can to make your child feel comfortable and loved and wanted and accepted. So if we make them feel the opposite, of course, it's going to push them straight into the hands of the kingdom of darkness. And a lot of it will involve us getting rid of those handing over those covenants that we came into agreement with through our parents, covenants that we didn't even know. Here's some examples of those covenants, because when you really think about it, you're like, wow. And this is not, blaming your parents, because the same way they taught us is 9 times out of 10 the way they were taught. And, it's just a perpetual thing all the way up through the generations. So it's just a lack of knowledge. My people perish for lack of knowledge. So one of the covenants that we've come into through our parents is hypocrisy. Do what I say, not what I do. Well, naturally, us children are going to see what our parents are doing, and we're going to be like, well, if you're not going to do it, then why should I? You know what I'm saying? Like, those of us that got our butts whooped, we going to do it anyway, because we don't want that whooping. But, you got to think about the generation that is coming up right now. Like, these kids, they come out swinging. You know what I'm saying? They come out with the most disrespectful mouth. Lying. Okay. So I remember when caller ID was famous on popular on the home phone, and a bill collector would call, and y'all know what I'm talking about. Your parents would see that bill collector's name come up on the caller ID, answer it and tell them I'm not here. Well, we was taught to lie, and then we got in trouble for lying. You know what I'm saying? Think about it. We got in trouble for lying to our parents. But then we was taught to lie by our parents. Can you see the psychological trauma that is being induced? And it doesn't seem like much, but over years, it develops mental disorders. You know what I'm saying? Like, it really develops mental disorders. And sometimes it even causes us to pick and choose to whom we lie to. Oh, because we have this thing called white lies. And we think that white lies are okay because, I was doing it in love. I was doing it out of love. No, a lie is a lie. And the Bible says that, or the Sefer says that liars will not inherit the kingdom of Yahuwah. Then you got Psychopathy, okay? Keep crying and I'll give you something to cry about. Now, I will admit that's something that I had said to my son in the early years of his life. Keep crying and I'll give you something to cry about. That teaches your child that they shouldn't have any emotions. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially like if you just whoop them, why are you telling them to stop crying? It hurt, okay? It hurt. Let them cry. Let them cry. Stop telling your child that they can't cry when it's time to cry. You know what I'm saying? Because again, you're creating emotionless psychopaths, sociopaths. And then they grow up and they have no emotion and they don't know how to do relationship with people because they don't know how to open up emotionally because they were told to shut down their emotions when it was actually appropriate for them to express their emotions. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of us are living proof of that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of us, before we entered onto the narrow path, we didn't know how to do relationship. But for some of us, we do now. Some of us are just beginning on the path. We're learning how to. And some of us who haven't even entered onto it, you know, this is, you got to come to Yahuwah and you got to submit these things to him. These are the different things that are hidden deep down inside of us that we don't even think about. We always see our anger and we see our frustration. We see our laziness. We see our lust, but those are all symptoms of the real issue. You know what I'm saying? That's just the branches that are spawning off of the tree. It's not the root though. And let's see, some of those things that come with, you know, the keep crying and I'll show you what, I'll give you something to cry about. It develops rage issues, aggression, overeating, fornication, smoking, etc. Bad habits come from this in our children. Worthlessness, calling you names out of anger and or telling you you'll never become anything of importance. Now, not everybody has dealt with this. Some people have dealt with the next thing I'm going to talk about, which is the exact opposite of this. So, you know, that develops a worthlessness in that child. And then that child, you know, anytime that they have any aspirations to do anything, or even when they want to do what Yahuwah is telling them to do, they're going to hear that voice in their head. And I know you think they won't, but they will. I gave an example about the dishwasher. Well, it might have been on my podcast. I gave you the example about the dishwasher, but my mom, you can always tell when my dad loaded the dishwasher because you would hear my mom going to unload the dishwasher and she would say, "There's no little man at the dishwasher that scrubs the dishes, Tommy." So as an adult, if I'm anywhere near a dishwasher, that voice, my mom's voice, comes into my head and I'm like, okay, let me make sure I get these dishes clean. And I, you know what I'm saying? Like, but I'm almost 40 and I still hear my mom's voice in my head when it comes to the dishwasher. So just imagine all the other times that our kids are hearing our voice in their heads when it comes to certain things that we have unintentionally traumatized them with. You know what I'm saying? The opposite of that is narcissism, because some of us over exhort or exalt our children, and we tell them that we put them so high on this pedestal that they think that they're better than everybody else. And then they start, you know, it starts to bleed through in their relationships with their peers and even with their siblings and with their teachers and so on and so forth. So now they walk around like they boo-boo don't stink. But we know that roses really smell like boo-boo, right? They walk around like they boo-boo don't stink because we didn't discipline them enough, and we didn't encourage them to look at themselves. You know what I'm saying? Then you have aggression. So whooping your child without an explanation. Now, I'm a firm believer in whooping your child. I grew up on whoopings, and there's just certain things I won't do because, again, I remember that whooping, that whooping, you know what I'm saying? I'm not finna do this. And no, my mom's not finna whoop me at 39 years old. But it's just that, you know, I don't want no whoopings. But what Yahuwah has taught me is, if I do have to whoop my child, let him know the reason why he's getting a whooping and why he should change the behavior that led to him getting that whooping. Because a lot of times, and understand this, to me, a whooping is you pop them to get that attention and then you keep it moving. If you just beating their butts like a slave master, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a beating, okay? We don't need to get beatings, okay? Just a whoop, get their attention, and then talk to your children. Talk to your children. My son, when he's around me, be getting on my last nerve. But when I send him out, I always get compliments and hallelujah, because it has nothing to do with me, only the things that Yahuwah has told me to do when it comes to raising my child. But I get compliments on how well behaved he is and how kind he is. And you know what I'm saying? So it lets me know that what Yahuwah is telling me to do has been working. And yes, every child is different. Yes, every child will have their little, quirks and whatnot. But understand, Av Yahuwah is greater than all of that. He is able to tame our children, but we still have to put in the work too and make sure that we're not entering them into covenants and traumatizing them, because we know what it took to get the trauma out of our own lives. You know what I'm saying? We know all the times that we had to fast and pray and submit ourselves daily to Yahuwah. You know what I'm saying? But what he's teaching me to do is prevention. Let me just prevent the kingdom of darkness from even getting a hold of my child. You know what I'm saying? Now, if he grows up and he decides to come into covenants on his own, prayerfully not, but if that's his decision. But it's my job as his mom to make sure that right now, while he's in my care, I do the right things when it comes to him. Fear. Keep making that face and it'll get stuck that way. I mean, that's a lie. But it also brings fear. Like, I'm afraid that my face, and it's, like I said, it's little things. It's little things that we say and do that we don't realize it. It was said and done to us and we just don't realize it, The mirror effect. So your speech and your body language should be subconsciously mirrored by those observing you. So for instance, if I come into a store, just like any store or restaurant or whatnot, any public space, and I got the scowl on my face, most people are gonna, you know what I'm saying, like steer clear of me. They're going to mirror that back to you. Now, every once in a while, you'll come across that person that, how you feel don't move them. So they still going to be who they are regardless. Or you could be the one that comes in with a great attitude and they still going to have a bad day because they just chose that they was going to wake up and choose violence that day. That's on them. But I have have you ever heard the phrase that a smile is contagious or a laugh is contagious? Well, this is what it means by mirrored behavior. So what you do in front of your children is going to be mirrored through them. So this is why it's important for us to hold ourselves accountable, because our children are watching, whether we know it or not. They're watching, and we know it, but we always seem to forget. Me especially, it's in the back of our mind. We forget that they're watching us, but that's how they learn the most, is by watching us, not by what we tell them, by what they see us do. So they have to see us falling on our face and submitting to Av Yahuwah. They have to see us reading and eating of his word. They have to hear us praying out loud to him. They have to see us worshiping him. They have to see us loving our enemies. They have to see us being a cheerful giver. They have to see us serving people without putting it on social media for everybody to see how great of a person we are. You know what I'm saying? They have to see us doing the things that we were told to do, that Yahuwah has told us to do, in order for it to inspire them to do it. Now, again, they are their own people. So there's going to be those children that rebel against that. But again, Yahuwah is above the spirit of rebellion. He's above it. He can get even that child. You just keep doing what you're supposed to do. Keep planting those seeds, because in due time, you will reap a harvest. Now, what harvest are you going to reap is depending on the type of seeds that you plant. You can't plant apple seeds expecting an orange tree to grow. That's insane. That's ludicrous. So plant the good seeds, and the good seeds will grow. It's up to Yahuwah's time when they grow, but they will grow. Now, I done went through some things. I done did some things in my youth. But overall, the seeds that my parents planted in me as a child stuck with me. I don't believe in freeloading in nobody's house. The times I've had to live with people, I'm like, shoot, I'll clean your house. I'll cook dinner. I don't believe in doing just laying on somebody's couch all day. You know what I'm saying? That's never been me. When I go to someone's house, I treat it like it's my own. These are all things that have been deeply embedded in me from my parents. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I did some things. I did a lot of things, actually. I did a lot of things. But overall, the core of who I was still where it needed to be. And then once Yahuwah came into once I came into Yahuwah's light, let's put it that way. Once I stepped into his light, and then he took over from my parents. Well, he's always been doing it. But in my mind, when he took over from my parents, when I let go and let him take over, then he started to build off of that. So apologies. Make sure it's important to apologize to your child. Because some of this other stuff that I talked about on the video, a lot of us already know to do. But that apology, a lot of us think that we don't have to apologize to our children when we mess up. And they're people just like we are. If you're wrong, you're wrong. Teach them to apologize by you apologizing. And create an environment where they feel like they can come and talk to you about anything. I didn't have that with my mom. And I love my mom. She did a great job. And she did what she knew to do. So this is not me bashing my mom, but I didn't have that with my mom. So it was a lot of that mother-daughter relationship that I missed out on as a young woman. I mean, I was determined to have that relationship with my mom when I became an older woman. But it was a lot of that I missed out on when I was younger, because I felt like I knew that if I went to her about certain things, I was going to get my butt whooped. And I'm like, shoot, I'm not going to do that. So I wouldn't talk to her. But if we create such a fear in our children that they feel like they can't come to us about certain things, it's definitely going to push them to the wrong counsel. Or at least have people in their life, like a community in their life that they can go to that's going to give them yali advice, okay? Because sometimes they just won't want to come to you because you're their parent. All right, I'm going to go because I got to go get the rest of my day finished today. But just want to come on here and say that, yeah, it's important that we treat our children like the little people that they are. They're people. They're children, but they're people. That we didn't give birth to alley cats, okay? They're people. All right, you guys have a rest of the day.